I must keep away from the speaker, I think. It's great to have you back. And we have a really stunning panel here of highly experienced experts in a variety of disciplines within IoT. And I'll introduce them, in fact, I think I'll ask them to introduce themselves in a moment. But first, we're going to do something that we did a little bit of yesterday, and I'm going to ask you to make a vote, to vote using your handset. So could we have the slide? Thank you. We have a great system here that enables us to get some kind of sounding on your feelings. We don't just want to talk to you, we want to hear your views too. And what we're doing is through Feedbacker, you can go online. Please have a look at this website now on your device. There's no rush. We have the system open for the next 10, 15 minutes, maybe more, so that we can get your vote. And we want to explore what it means to have an autonomous system. I mean, we talk about autonomous systems in the IoT as though they're slightly different. And I'm going to ask the panel about this in a minute, but my view on this is that IoT is all about autonomy. So let's see what your view is. The question is, when will our cars be able to drive autonomously in Europe? Now, I know that you're all saying, yes, Ericsson, Volvo, it's all been done in Spain, it's done in Gothenburg, it's happening all over the place right now. I'm not talking about pilot projects. I'm not talking about trials and tests. I'm talking about widespread implementation. You know, in Germany, Austria, France, the UK, I'm talking about widespread use by all of us. So when will our cars be able to drive autonomously in Europe? Is it going to be in 5 years, in 10 years, not till 20 years, or do you believe it will never happen? So, we will continue to keep this voting system open, and you are able to vote. I can see a question from the audience. Sonia, there's a gentleman here who would like to ask a question. Would you mind giving him a microphone? Because I've said this is interactive, so let's make this interactive.
Just a simple question. What's the code for this feedback?
The code is forum. Is that correct, Matthias? The code is forum. It should say so. F-O-R-U-M. Forum. Thank you for asking. And there's another question here. Capital letters, forum. F-O-R-U-M.
Would you mind specifying the question a bit more precisely? Do you mean on 100% of the streets or on 100% of the highways?
No, not 100%. I'm talking about just general widespread implementation. So it might be, say, 50%. So that most cities, most towns, most countries, so that we are hitting a tipping point. I like your thinking, because I struggled with this thought. Should we be talking about 100%, or should we be talking about the very first car that hits the streets? Let's go for the middle ground. Let's find the middle picture. So please have your vote. Continue to vote during our panel discussion. And I will ask the organizers, please, to return us to the main slide so that I can introduce our distinguished panel. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us, as you see, a highly distinguished panel. I'm going to ask each of them in turn to give us 30 seconds description of who they are and what their experience is. May I begin with you, Ulla?
Yes. Is it on? Good. My name is Ola Olsson-Milling. I'm the Director of IoT Partnerships for the Tele2 Group. Been in IoT for about 15 years, spending time with companies such as Vodafone, Telenor, and a few years with Ericsson, both in Europe and in Asia for a few years as well. So long background into IoT and M2M.
Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Barbara Flügge. I'm with SAP. now for 15 years, and I'm working on smart mobility and smart logistics. And one of the key patterns I focus on is about how to digitalize ecosystems. So how to really connect different industry players, for example, in ports, cities, airports, but also in the rural areas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wolfgang Leindecker. I'm a Vice President Sales Industrial and Corporate Marketing at tttech. Probably not so well known as SAP, for example, but we work in various verticals like automotive, so we work heavily on autonomous driving. We work in industrial, like preparing the grounds for Industry 4.0, and we work in aerospace, so we connect airplanes, but that's actually in vehicle, in the airplanes that we do the networks. One of the major use cases is also NASA Orion, the success of Space Shuttle that we did build the network on.
Hello, my name is Rudolf Schrefl. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Drei in Austria. Before that, I worked for various technology companies in the US as well as in Asia. And I'm with Drei since 2002, and we're basically here to create connections. So we have already more than 3.8 million connections in Austria. And we're going to grow that customer base in both segments, in the business and also in the consumer segments. And if you're interested, we're also very active in the Internet of Things area with a couple of companies we are presenting already today. I would say settings which are tomorrow's solutions for connecting people and connecting devices.
Thank you. And Werner.
Hello everyone, my name is Werner Waldhier. I will be 52 tomorrow. I'm in IT within the last 25 years. Now I'm working for PTC, and my team is responsible for all products which are supporting digital transformation for mid-sized customers. And we have also here a booth outside, and if you want to learn a little bit more about technology, please join us.
Keep the microphone, Werner, because I'd like to come to you first. We've talked here, the question is, autonomous systems of things, are they the roadmap to the future? Now, how do we define what is an autonomous thing? As I said before, I struggle with the idea that this is something distinct, so help me here.
Okay, I think it's all rely on data, all on learning, intelligent systems. We are talking about swarm computing altogether. IoT is a piece of the puzzle, but it should be much more. And hopefully we can use the next 40 minutes to find out what the full puzzle can be.
Yeah. Is there a different view from within the telco community?
Well, obviously telcos, we are dealing with autonomous systems since quite some while, since our networks are most of the times autonomous. They are policy driven, they're adapting to current customer needs, and that's going to continue over the next couple of years. We are now in the 4G technology area. 5G will be much more precise and much more adaptive to the particular application the user needs in the second he needs it. And that's going to be autonomous driven. There's no human interaction in general behind the network. But definitely I think there will be a strong path into more and more autonomy, but that's going to be also basically associated with lots of questions and lots of debates on various of political and also on ethical levels. And I think that's a very challenging and a very exciting period we are just starting to lead into.
Yeah. This is an important area, and I don't mind in which order we go, but I suspect you had something to say there, Ola.
No, but I agree to the comment, and I think that the main challenge that we see is probably the privacy in terms of users. So we can do a lot more things in terms of the telco world, but however, I think the privacy concern, as mentioned, will be one of the main challenges.
Yeah. Barbara, is the definition that we're hearing, is this in line with your thinking?
It is in line. I would also add the human factor. So on the one hand side, autonomous means about connecting systems, platforms, devices, all the elements that actually also make up our life, our businesses as well. On the other hand, autonomous always has a notion about forgetting about the human factor. Yeah. So when we think about M2M, I usually call it also human to machine and machine to human. Because at the end, autonomous only would function if we also have, let's say, a well-defined space left for human-made decisions, right, and recommendations. So that's something I would add. Yeah.
Wolfgang, are you comfortable with where we're headed in this description?
Yeah, absolutely. I think autonomous systems, it definitely makes sense to look into the use case side of things more than on a technical definition. So what is an autonomous system? One of the most predominant examples that will affect all of us is, of course, autonomous driving. And that's a field we're specifically working on. There you have a very clearly defined stage of autonomous driving. It goes, you have 5 stages from assisted driving all the way up to fully automated, and the highest level is actually the car drives totally by itself, but it still needs a driver, and then level 5 would be even totally driverless. So there's not even a seat for a driver left anymore. The vehicle runs totally autonomously. And at the moment on this ladder, we have, it's actually, we shouldn't talk about the future, it's there already. We have already reached in series production cars, which will be launched next year on the market. We have reached level 3, which means on dedicated use cases like on the motorway, on highways, it can run even non-monitored. I don't have to watch the streets anymore, the car drives itself. And I think that's a very, this example, and as this is mass market, will of course spill over also to other industries because it has reached a very high level of autonomous system thinking already.
There's several themes that have come out of what you've all been saying. Privacy, use case, the importance of finding the right use case, and the human element. And that harps back to my opening remarks yesterday about not forgetting that the IoT is about people, not things. Do you think, the implication is that this is where we're headed and this is a good thing. Is it automatically so? What would you say, Werner? Is autonomy necessarily a good thing, or should we be pretty wary of it?
I think we see a change in that. A few years ago, for example, we discussed about empty factories, also related to autonomy. Now we're talking about how people can work together with robotics, and you see the change. I had the chance to go to the Hannover Messe, and all the robotics producers showed new systems that the people can work with the systems very close. And they're looking what happens, and it depends on the sensor. When I'm 1 meter away, it starts working slower. If I'm 10 centimeters away, the system stops immediately to protect the human being. I think that's coming more and more, yeah.
But I think that's more a challenge for society, right? So
it is.
Each and everything that's probably could be automated will be. The challenge for us as a society is what do people do instead of filling the trucks with gravel or whatever that might be. People need something to do. So that's, I think, is not maybe only positive. We will have a few challenges going forward, without a doubt.
When we were chatting earlier, we'll come to this later, I think, but it's appropriate now to discuss that there will be a time when things go wrong with autonomous systems. And if we are to take the public with us, we are, after all, as an industry and as a group of industries, we are the champions of IoT here. We have to be alert to the possibility that there will be one day some event that is tragic, that is not acceptable, and the public's opinion may suffer.
Well, I think that already happened. If you look at the disaster with the Airbus, which is also a highly autonomous airplane, it basically didn't change the perceived safety you have in an airplane, especially also in an Airbus airplane on the long term. But absolutely, I think those changes have to be introduced in society in the right speed and also with the right, communication around it. And yes, there will be small little things in their households, in their lives, which are getting more and more, safe because of autonomous system. For example, we have one prototype here which protects babies from the sudden child's death. And those can be connected in the next extension into medical cloud systems or services which protect your family. And the better those services are being sold to the public, the more easy it will be that technology path, which is just ahead of us, is going to be digestible for the public.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, there will be downsides, but there will be also so many positive new developments in society that I think that just has to be moderated by the industries.
So Wolfgang, are we just working on the basis that there will be more good instances of autonomous systems than there are bad instances, and therefore people will see this is essentially a good thing, I'll live with this?
Yeah, tricky point, because all the accidents that haven't happened, this will be a lot more difficult to show than the one accident where something went wrong. So I agree, this is probably the most difficult point on communication around autonomous systems, not only in driving, but again, this is a very visible point of view. Maybe it helps to look at other industries where we have quite a high level of autonomy already, like in airplanes. I mean, this is starts and landing is basically done totally automatically, and everybody relies on these systems and knows they are actually doing a better job than most pilots would do in reality. And same with trains. Driverless subways is a reality. It's there. Most of the newly installed systems since a few years are driverless. So I think as we grow up as a society, also with these tools, and we heard about new generations coming up, I think also the belief in the technology and in the safety of technology will rise. Of course, I think it very much depends on us as industry also in order to make things right. Because just to gain the first big buck, to tell my system is autonomous and it is not really, or you don't really think of safety mechanisms, that's kind of a different story. I mean, maybe some of you have seen the YouTube videos, My Tesla Tried to Kill Me. This is actually, Tesla has quite a high level of driver support, but not autonomous driving already in the cars that are out there and available. But it's officially only driver support, but it's so many support systems that people start relying on it and don't actually look in the streets anymore and think it's kind of autonomous driving, that it's non-monitored driving already, which it is not. And then there are some, you can watch the videos where it is all of a sudden it starts hitting a car on the opposite side of the road or so, and then the driver immediately tries to steer against it. So of course, if you don't do it right, it's dangerous, and I think this can actually set back the industry quite a lot if we don't really know what we're doing. If we follow all the rules about safety we have learned already in aerospace, in space flight, in trains, I think it is absolutely obvious that we will have a lot less accidents, and that it will be, you will see it in the statistics, that there's definitely a lot of good in it, in autonomous systems.
Barbara, I don't want us to get hung up on this being purely about driving. I'm a bit of a petrol head myself, so I'd be happy to spend the rest of the day talking about driving, but I sense that there is a lot more that we should be talking about. Can you give us some examples from your experience of what you think the range of possibilities might be? Tell us where it is that you see us going.
Well, when you look at our booth, you will find some great examples on the construction side, especially when it comes to connecting different industry players alongside a construction project. For example, where you have autonomously dispatched cranes and equipment, also coming along with the booking, the dispatching of the technicians, to be on time, to actually also overcome the burden of incidents and accidents. So also to safeguard the security of the people there, right? And also to put on digital services to actually allow adjustments, for example, of the reach of a crane, let's say, or of a drilling machine, because of some weather conditions, of accidents or incidents that were happening. Another thing, what we are also showcasing is about the connected stadium. So it is, let's say, a new way of defining, I call it interaction design, because when we think about autonomous systems, we also have to rethink about the business processes, and they come also into human business processes. Because all of these examples like constructions, the connected stadium, Wolfgang mentioned also mobility, smart mobility, going from door to door. What we saw in the example from the speech before is about really intermodal routing. So hopefully we can get to our point of destination regardless the number of travel means, transportation means we're using, regardless the different, let's say, providers and operators being public or private. We would like to have one ticket, and we would like to have one price at the end. If I have to switch 10 times or 5 times or 3 times. And so all these kind of examples you see are about autonomous systems. And what we currently do is we're redefining business processes part as well. Because you asked for the success factors. Yes, we know about the challenges, we know about their exceptions, and those spread the news faster than the good news, right? So to really go into that, it is about interaction design and calculate it in as well.
But we talked to Barbara about that before. It's very much about connecting ecosystems, right? You mentioned yesterday, I believe, about the connected fridge, right?
Yeah.
Which we did, or I did, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Brilliant idea. However, it didn't actually connect to an ecosystem. It wasn't actually someone telling you that now it's empty, please refill. Connect the ecosystem, make an autonomous, please come over and ship something to my home because now the fridge is out of milk. So it's very much about connecting, as we discussed before, the ecosystem to make it autonomous, right?
What other applications should we be thinking of in terms of autonomous systems?
Let me add one example. I just came back from a meeting with PepsiCo, and the dream or the vision from PepsiCo is that they want to build safe, self-maintaining plants and factories. Actually, they have 350 plants outside of the world, and the idea is that the system is able to control the whole factory, finding out is something wrong, could be something wrong. And at the end of the day, their dream is that the system is ordering spare parts at their own. And I think that that's a clever thing about not thinking one tiny thing. The complete system is the future in this case.
And that leads to lots of questions. You know, I 100% agree that this is going to be for the industry, and I think 75% of the revenues of IoT will be generated from industry applications. But there is lots of data analytics, so you need lots of data scientists. You have lots of questions to answer in terms of data protection. Your customers, but also your consumers, are very concerned about privacy laws. Yeah. And that's also something I think the industry has to really tightly work on and make sure that everyone is on the same page. Standardization will be a big topic, but also regulation has to play its role, that they enable basically all those developments rather than preventing them. So if you look into the industry developments, the predictive maintenance is a big issue where you not only can see when something goes wrong, but you already set the next steps in the industry chain, what has to be done, where has to be the service guys being sent out, what's the spare parts needed. Sometimes also they are produced just on the spot when you need them. So there's a whole lot of opportunities coming from that direction, and they're all to be explored from the industry and also in the right setting developed.
Yeah, I think preemptive maintenance so that the customer has the optimum experience. Before something has even gone wrong, it's known what is likely to fail, and the maintenance is done in advance. Yeah, this is such a beautiful system.
The very same you can translate into medicine.
Yeah.
You know, with the right analytical and sensoric mechanisms, you can obviously prevent also a major crisis in a hospital.
Yes, it's longer life and it's cheaper cost, and that's win-win.
the other thing that we haven't discussed really as well is security, right? That's
Yes.
probably the main challenge that we have before this
I agree
system
with you
actually.
completely, and I'd like to come to security and privacy in a moment. Before I do, Wolfgang, is there anything we should add in terms of other autonomous applications?
I would add to the industrial segment. I think there is a huge potential, and it's actually being realized right now. Don't forget, in industrial automation, we talk about the $200 billion market per year, still growing, and in Industry 4.0, whatever that concept exactly means, it is at the end, it's kind of IT services for machines. They talk to each other. They have access to classical IT services like we humans use every day. And this creates some sort of autonomy in between the machines communicating to each other. And this will be a degree of autonomy that really saves a lot of potential, gives a lot of savings potential, actually. So I see that's a huge use case there. The technology is also there, and I think a lot happens also in the human-robot interaction. So there's many things happening at the moment. I would maybe it kind of refers to your, what you wanted to get us to the next question. I would want to add something on the privacy. I think we have to separate out privacy and autonomy and connected somehow, because again, coming back to the car, it can be a fully automated, autonomous driving car, but totally disconnected. It could run totally on its own. I don't, so in that sense, it would not really affect any privacy issues. But on the other hand, if we think industry, the biggest savings, at least on the use cases we know today, come from monitoring the machines in all different stages, getting tons of raw data out and analyzing that data in order to get, to higher levels of prediction and then do predictive maintenance, do cost savings, energy savings, and so on. So it really, again, it depends on what we're looking at in detail. We can create fully autonomous systems that are fully private because they're not connected, and they would still work.
I'd like to pick up on your point, Ulla, about security, and I think you're referencing security of data, because we've talked about physical security. Security of data is going to be absolutely critical for public acceptance of autonomous systems. Are we talking about keeping as much data as possible at the edge of the network, i.e. in the car itself, rather than pumping large amounts of data back to the core of the network? I know it'll keep Three busy, but that's not necessarily the only objective.
No, I think as mentioned before, one of the main challenges will be security. Privacy will be one, but as mentioned, it could probably be solved. But now we have the discussion from the automotive industry about of course, connected cars been around for a long time. But who's actually owning the data? Is it the car company, or is it you who actually bought the car from them? Everyone wants to monetize and make the analytics of that data, but is it actually my data or the car companies? So
or somebody else in between.
Exactly. And the other thing is, of course, security. If it's a self-driving car, do you want someone to hack it and be able to drive it? We've already seen examples of that.
Yeah.
And that made a huge impact in people's mind of the perception of those kind of services. So I think that will be a main, security will be the main topic to solve.
Yeah. Barbara, what's your thought on
Well, on the data aspects, what we actually see is that we would need, and that's what we're working on, is about to have also for the human side trust gates. So because interaction, like for autonomous driving, also comes in that I, as an individual person, decide upon how much privacy would I like to obtain, would I even like or have to pay for privacy to keep my data private in the future. And same happens actually for businesses when they come to ecosystems, so to digital collaboration. So, and I call this concept trust gates, so meaning to a certain extent I'm happy to publish it and anonymize the data. To a certain extent, I would like to share it among the fleets that are in a certain geofence. And the third piece would actually be that I have visibility only on my own of what is happening there. And at the end, it comes not only to security of the things, so of the cars, but also of of the users as such. And I think the challenge is about that we don't talk only to business users anymore, but we also have the whole consumer side. Because like we heard, I mean, the shared economy will rise about like 3,000% growth. That's currently the estimate. So we all turn into a provider of data already. We're already there when we look into Airbnb and other examples, but we also do it for businesses. And we even do it more because our patterns of behavior will stimulate the self-learning systems like the cars that actually grow through artificial intelligence. So next to security and data privacy, what I call it is like there will be like an individual account that I carry on from one car to the next car, or from one machine I maintain or I am in interaction with, and then this mobility account actually travels with me, and it safeguards also. It has all my preferences, the payment, and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's just one. I don't want to have 10 or 20 different accounts anymore.
That's the beauty of the ecosystem, the right
That's the beauty of
partnerships.
the ecosystem.
You choose your
Exactly.
partnership and you get the right package that you like. Wolfgang, tttech must have a view on this, I'm sure.
On the where I put my data?
On the data and on the privacy.
I think it. I totally agree. You'll on the private side, you'll have you'll choose your container where you want to have your data and define the rules how to publish it, and it should be a central place potentially. But that's difficult because everybody wants to provide that central place. So and everybody else is hungry for data. And we've seen in the talk before, they are like cutting their teeth in your flesh. But I think it's important to distinguish between business side and consumer side. That's definitely a different area. On the business side, business data should be contained within the business, should be made use of within the business, and here I think we all accept that we as humans are being monitored to some extent, and that the machines are monitored, and that we use that in order to integrate to the best possible way and get synergies out. On the private side, I think it's a totally different story. I want to have the possibility to really define who sees what, and I think we've kind of lost control of data already in an age where we are not governed by autonomous systems. So a lot of it has been given away, very voluntarily by a lot of people, and I think we should come to an age where we get back control on the data already being, stored in some of the systems. So that's more a society question probably, and a legislative question than a question of technology and autonomous systems.
Rudi, I noticed you were nodding there. Would you want to comment on that? And also, would you like to comment on whether we should see these as distinct entities, business uses and consumer uses, or are they all, customers?
No, I mean, basically we covered most of the areas of data protection already, but definitely it's going to be a big challenge to choose the right bucket where you want to be in and where data is stored. Having said that, most of the consumers, they're very easy to give, data away to all the OTTs and all the cool apps they get today on the phones, and they partially don't even know anymore what data is already available about them in the various of clouds services which are existing. As a telco, as a mobile operator, we're basically we are regulated on two cores. We are regulated on the standard data protection law, but also on the telecom control law. So our data protection requirements are much higher than the requirements for any of the OTTs or anybody else in the industry. So if you want to really make sure that your data is protected against the outside world, a telco is a good place to choose, especially in a country like Austria. Businesses and consumers definitely have to be treated differently, because consumer private data is something which has a broad variety of streams. It can go from medical information to leisure information. Whereas businesses protect their process information and their intellectual property inside their environments, and they want to keep it that way. They don't want to have industry process know-how leaking out to countries which basically can probably produce 20 times cheaper because of other regulations. And therefore, we have to make sure that businesses understand that whoever comes in and helps them to get the next step in automation into autonomy or Industry 4.0 understands their needs in terms of data protection and also helps them to make sure that their intellectual property is saved inside their environments.
Yeah, I mean, if I was trying to describe a company that deals with Industry 4.0, it would probably sound something like PTC, so help us here. Would you say that this is the way forward, that we have to treat these two types of customers as distinct?
Perhaps I would see it perhaps in a different direction. I'm sure 100% convinced that we should do everything to protect the primary data, yeah? But we see in the ecosystem that the companies, for them it's good enough to get trends, to get patterns. They are numerous, and I think there are two different looks on that. And it's also about a generation conflict. We are all mid-agers, but if you talk with people out of generation Y or Z, they doesn't care about this. If they see a value, they give you everything. I think it will also change a little bit the business in the future.
Yeah. We have just 2 minutes left in which we could perhaps take any questions from the audience. We've got a distinguished panel. You don't get this kind of panel very often. So if you have any questions, please pop your hand up and a microphone will be brought to you. If we don't have any questions, then really could I ask you each to give me 30 seconds to sum up what you see as the risks and the opportunities? Can I start with you, Ola?
Opportunities from our telco perspective,
from a broad perspective.
So opportunities, of course, is efficiency. Make sure that everything that will be automated can be automated will be. Eventually, I think that the hurdles and the challenges we have will be security and privacy. I think those could be solved. But for us as a society, I think we see a lot of benefits from automated systems. The other challenge would most likely be the in terms of when you automate system, people will be left out of work. What will happen and how will we manage those challenges? I think that's.
Barbara, what would you add? Thank you, Ola.
Yeah, I would like to cover actually two risks. One risk is about to relying too heavily on the opportunity of autonomy and not encountering or taking account of skill development and the capacity we have to build on our own to understand actually how to actually work in an autonomous system. And on the second hand, the risk could be that we neglect to focus on that. So it's like turning these challenges, but also the risk into opportunities for us. Yeah. I think that's especially on the capacity build. We heard about data scientists. We know about the numbers of where would be the future, where are the future jobs, right? So that we invest enough also on not only for private businesses, but also for public authorities and governmental authorities. They will rely more and more on autonomous systems because we know about the demographic change, right? And on the other hand, it's also about building the capacity and learning about digitalization for those that actually remain in the authorities as well.
Wolfgang, your 30 seconds, please.
Yes. First of all, autonomous systems means not every decision is taken up in the cloud. You'll get intelligence and decision-making locally down close to the machines. Not in every machine, but close to. So there's going to be a compute entity, some brains near to the machines. And in industrial automation, I predict in the next 10, 15 years, we'll see factories where machines and robots organize themselves to just perform a task. So you'll tell them, build this new chair, and it should be yellow, and they organize themselves in order to do it and perform that task, like you would have a group of humans that think about, okay, what should it look like, how do we do it, we design it, and we think about different options. And this is where it goes. By the way, at Hannover Fair this year, you've seen a robot that built itself. So, you know, they start them duplicating themselves. Even that is possible. So autonomous systems really getting decision power locally down and giving basically tasks that they can perform autonomously. I think that's going to be a huge change in the manufacturing.
Okay.
And it'll take a while until all the production lines are put there, but the first ones you'll see in 10, 15 years probably. In driving, I would say the future's there already. Starting next year, you can buy your Audi autonomous driving at level 3, the first car in the world that does that. That's serial production. You can buy it. It's out there. Yeah. And only the autonomous driving market will be about 1.9 trillion US dollar market in 2025 or so. So you see it's happening. It's out there. And I think we should look at the challenges, definitely, but also accept the fact that we are already having a lot of autonomous systems amongst us.
Okay. Rudy.
Well, I'm going to take another 30 seconds. No, let me look at the opportunities with that, and let me paint you a picture which is probably more to grasp. I live in an area where beside me lives a 94-year-old lady. And she is struggling with her day-to-day life because she needs to go and do her shop and go to the doctor and visit her relatives. And she is still driving her bloody car. And it's really dangerous, and I know her niece, and she tries to get the car keys away from her since quite some time. So I think the biggest opportunity we have, and I'm in an age group where I might even really live to that point where fully autonomous cars connected to, you know, in a network to the other cars and know exactly when the other car comes into the next intersection. It will be easy for me to jump in a car and go to my relatives or do my shop and go to my doctor's visit, because that car is going to drive itself without me risking lives of others. And I think that's a very great opportunity for all of us to go into that directions. And I'm not going into any obstacles because we are all Austrians. We see enough obstacles in our day-to-day business life. I think we can figure out those obstacles and how we get around those in the near future in order to enable that, in my opinion, very prosperous future for all of us. And in the pyramid, I think we will focus more on the top of the pyramid, how to develop as a human mankind, how to develop as a society, rather than sweating our feet off in the factory plant or somewhere else.
Okay. Werner, to wrap up.
I think we have no choice. In 2 years, we have to feed and carry 8 billion people on our small planet. So let's take the chance. The risk we discussed about security, okay, there. Every new technology brings a risk, especially regarding to security. And bad news is the bad guys are also clever, so it's a race between them and us. Thank you much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you'll agree we've had a deal of expertise and some very good comments. So many thanks to all of our panel. Many thanks. Now, before I lose you, let's have the results of our earlier poll and see if we can find out when we believe our cars will be able to drive autonomously in Europe. And 52% say in 10 years, 23% are more optimistic, believe it'll be in 5 years. Very similar, 20% say in 20 years. And only 5% say never, but still 5% say never. I think that's interesting.
You want us to comment quickly? I believe in 10 years.
You believe in 10 years?
Me too.
10 years? 5 years.
I said 20 years.
20? 10. Very much the same as our audience. Thank you very much to the audience as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, panel. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Now, yes. Now, before I lose you, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to be aware that we have something very interesting happening at around 3 o'clock this afternoon. We have going on quietly in the background, you may not even be aware of it, there is a hackathon happening, and it is not just a straightforward technical hackathon that you may be familiar with. We have 4 different organizations all putting forward a challenge, and a group of individuals have put themselves forward and have taken part for the last 24, 36 hours in trying to find business solutions. So it's not a technical hack, it's using their technical knowledge, but in allying it to the business of finding solutions in the Internet of Things.